everybody, to the Forging Roots podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Couture. This is another episode of Forging Fridays. And this past weekend was actually, actually not even past weekend. Yesterday was 4th of July. But, I'm sure all of us had Monday off, or a decent amount of you had Monday off. So hopefully you had a good long weekend and ate plenty of hot dogs, hamburgers, grilled out, did the whole thing and tried to stay out of the heat. I know it was a hot one, at least in Ohio and Michigan. But yeah, so I hope you guys had a good time doing that. I know I did. I actually went to my girlfriend's place and was helping put up a pool deck all weekend. Got quite a bit of sun, so I got a little sunburn on the back, but I know her parents were very happy to have some help. So, do what you got to do. And I just dug up some posts basically on, what was it? Sunday. On Sunday, I dug up posts for the footings on it. And then Saturday we had pool day. So it wasn't bad. We'd work, jump in the pool, work, jump in the pool. So that kind of helped. But yesterday got home and spent it. My parents have been gone on a trip. So got to see them for 4th of July, which was nice because they've been gone, I think about 10-ish days or so, somewhere around there. And for a family reunion on my mom's side, and went to West Virginia and Tennessee, and yeah, they just had a really good time. But it was nice to have them back home and be able to celebrate. And I know 4th of July for a lot of people, it's a good day. It's Independence Day, and we kind of tend to focus on what the fireworks and all the fun stuff about it, and the hot dogs and the ice cream and the pool and the swimming. And really, some people take the time and some people don't. But I just want to be able to step aside for a second and take a moment to be like, hey, let's remember what this day means and what that Independence Day was. And a lot of people say, oh, America is not that great, especially nowadays, because we have divided, people say it's great, some people say it's not, and then there's people in the middle. But it just seems really divided lately. And I just want to kind of reaffirm everyone, like, we live in the best country the world has ever seen, in my opinion. I don't think that's really that controversial to say, but some people might think that me saying that is. But I really do believe it, because I'll give you my reasoning why. So yes, Independence Day, we were saying, no, we don't want to be part of England and all that, and we're breaking off, we're declaring our own independence, which really hadn't been done before. And was it perfect then? Because I know a lot of people say, oh, well, we still had slavery. We still had, women didn't have as many rights. And so it was founded on this bad principle. And really, I like to take the step and go, if it wasn't for that day, was it perfect right there and then when it happened? No, it wasn't. There were still flaws and issues that had to be worked through. But it was a stepping stone. Without that day happening, most likely a country like ours would not have happened without saying, hey, we're going to declare independence. We're going to have our own freedoms, and take the time and have the ability to have the freedoms to discuss these ideas of, should a woman vote? Is slavery okay? These are things that across the world still go on in certain countries. And we like to focus on, oh, America still can be that way or is that way. And I really don't think as a whole it is. There's, especially now in law, written law, like, you have that right. We don't have discrimination. Can a person be discriminatory? Sure. But is it written in such a way? I would argue that it's not written that way, But just to have the ability to be in a country where we can have that discussion and self-realization, because a lot of people go, oh, we're so bad, we're so awful, we did all these things. Like, we took the land over from the Native Americans that were here before us and conquered their lands and pushed them out. And I'm not saying that was okay, or trying to justify slavery or justify taking the land or justify women not having as many rights or being equal. And that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that had it not been for that day, we would never be able to have the discussion to say, hey, this might not be okay. And really, if you look at it, how many countries and civilizations and different empires throughout history have always been conquering and taking land and fighting. It's not like this is something new with America. Like when we created it, it wasn't a new concept or a new thing. We weren't the only person doing it. Where I think we differ is we're the first country in history, to my knowledge. I mean, maybe not the first. I'm sure there's little examples here and there people can point out, but on the scale that we have, to do self-reflecting and say, hey, yeah, we did this, but we acknowledge that's wrong, or what we had done in the past is wrong, and are working to try to fix that. That's where I think we kind of differ. And I think we need to like all kind of rally around that and go, hey, you know what? I might not think that we're where we should be, but we live in a country that's free enough to say, hey, we'll sit down and have that conversation. I think maybe, hypothetically speaking, I think that we're perfectly fine the way we are. And then you can have somebody else, hypothetically speaking, say, I think we should do more this way of how we want to create a law. Okay, we live in a country now. If you're in the US, if you're not in the US, I'm sorry, it's pretty awesome. Uh, but we live in a country that can say, all right, well, let's sit down and let's discuss it, and we can vote on it. We can take action. We can do all this stuff peacefully. And I don't get why people hate so much and say this is such an awful country, especially, there's been a lot going on in the news about decisions that have been made in politics, and it can get kind of fuzzy and people get very argumentative and angry. What I just like to think is I would rather have the choice to vote on something state to state, with everything that's been going on. At least you still have a choice. It's not like I'm speaking to the Roe v. Wade. I know a lot of people got worked up and are scared, and some people praising what had happened. And I'm just saying, let's reflect and say, hey, at least there's not just one way, right? There's not one old guy in DC, white old guy specifically, that is telling you it has to be this way. You now have the freedom to choose, is this something you want to vote on? And that's all I'm saying is, and I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong or what's the right, like, specific answer to all these problems, because it's so complex to talk about each specific laws that go in and are turned or passed or overturned and so on and so forth. But at least we have the opportunity to sit down and have the conversations and be able to have this back and forth civilly. When it gets uncivil, that's not what America represents. And, I posted on my Instagram story, like, here, and the fireworks go off, and I don't know, it just, around my neighborhood, they were going off crazy last night. And it kind of reminded me, like, man, these are just fireworks, but imagine the sounds of the men and women that fought before us for this country, and hearing the gunshots overseas, or even here on our land, to finally declare our independence and fight and give us this opportunity to try out something that had never been tried out in America, of freedom and free choice, and figuring that out. And it's not been pretty, but man, we're so lucky to be able to figure that out. And so, like I've said before, self-reflect and go, we didn't quite have it there, but this is how we're going to fix it. Or maybe we have had some things that are set in stone that have been good all the way through. And then it's like, cool, we can praise that too. All I'm saying is that, just try to remember when you're talking with others. I know it can get heated and people can get passionate, one way or the other. But just remember, we're all a part, if you're in the US, all a part of this country. And let's do our best to keep it that way, and keep the freedoms and the open discussion, and kind of bring it back. Everyone says, like, oh, I mean, I'm born 98. I barely made the cut in the 90s. I don't really remember a world too much without technology and all this social media right at your fingertips. And just how people said it was so different. People were nicer back then. I think we need to really focus on getting back to those roots. See what I did there? Forging roots. Okay. Anyways, but get back to those of being able to agree to disagree, and still consider you and your neighbor fellow Americans, and we can rally behind that. I think that's something we don't always remember to do, and that we should, because if not, then we got a really hard uphill battle against us, within our country, and let alone others that are trying to completely destroy it in general. But yeah, so just kind of wanted to hop on, say, well, it's a little bit late for you guys since I'm uploading it later in the week, but hope you guys had a great 4th of July. Just a little tidbit of information to maybe think about. Hope you guys do consider this. Maybe you think I'm right, maybe you don't. If you don't, again, please do comment. I know I haven't really got any quite yet, but if you don't agree with me, comment. Let's talk about it. Or if you do agree and you think this is awesome, share it with people and get the message out there. And yeah, just have a good rest of you guys' week whenever you're watching this. If it's Friday for you guys, hope your week was good and that you get to enjoy this weekend coming up, and just enjoy the freedoms that we have in this country and continue to have, and hopefully we'll have for a very, very long time. But without further ado, I will see you guys in the next week's Forging Friday episode. Have a good week.